vision or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Brian Mendola, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the current issues of the Lockport Union-Sun and Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Let's get started. Our top headline: Election Reality Check. Local elections officials cite multiple safeguards against voter fraud, by Mark Shear. Non-citizens voting in U.S. elections? Dead people rising from their graves to cast their votes? Foreign agents with intent influencing outcomes using fraudulent mail-in ballots? Voter fraud allegations remain a point of debate for many Americans as President Donald Trump continues to push his old claims without evidence about election interference robbing him of his victory in the 2020 election. During the Tuesday State of the Union address, Trump again surging illegal aliens can be stopped from voting through approval of Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, commonly known as the SAVE Act, SAVE, which would require voters to prove proof of citizenship and photo identification nationwide. Perhaps most importantly, I'm asking you to approve the Save America Act to stop illegal aliens and other who are unpermitted persons from voting in our sacred American elections, Trump told Congress. That cheating is rampant in our elections, and it's rampant. On Friday, multiple media outlets, including the Washington Post, report a group of pro-Trump attorneys and supporters have circulated and drafted presidential executive order that rallies on the claims of Chinese interference in the 2020 election to justify a national emergency declaration designed to grant the president sweeping power over voting. While it's unclear if Trump is considering or would ultimately issue the order, multiple media outlets reported a 17-page draft order would mandate the use of voter ID and hand counting of ballots while banning mail-in ballots for upcoming midterm elections. So what's the record of voter fraud in Niagara County in recent years? The county's two election commissioners, one representing the Democrats and one representing the Republicans, say based on their experience hasn't been any. Allen, an election board veteran with more than 2 decades of experience, doesn't recall a single proven incident of a non-citizen or dead person voting in an election in Niagara County while she's been on the job. In my 24 years, never, she said. The Board of Elections has been here longer than me, but with me, here, never. Allen's counterpart, Republican Election Commissioner Jennifer Sanato, said her experience has been the same. I don't know of anybody who has voted that is deceased or has not been a U.S. citizen, she said. Under the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act of 1996, non-citizens are expressly prohibited from voting in federal elections. Federal law does not allow non-citizens to cast ballots in certain local elections. However, no state, including New York, allows non-citizens to vote in a statewide election. The conservative group, the Heritage Foundation, has advocated for photo ID voter recruitment to curb election fraud. The foundation's own database of voter fraud cases has documented a total of 1,546, quote, proven, unquote, instances nationwide dating back to the 1980s. An analysis conducted by the American Immigration Council suggests only 68 of those cases involved in non-citizen voting, or 0.0001% of the more than 1 billion votes cast in thousands of elections over the past 40 years. Both Allen and Sanato said there are safeguards in place to protect the integrity in elections. They have proven effective. Before anyone can vote in the state of New York, they must register to vote with the Board of Elections, where they reside. Allen noted the state's voter registration form included an affidavit section where applicants are required to swear or affirm under a threat of penalties for noncompliance to begin citizens of the United States to have lived in the United States, lived in the city, county, or village for at least 30 days before the election. Violators face up fines of up to $5,000 and could be put in jail for up to 4 days. If someone had went through this process of being registered, they have signed the affidavit, Allen said. Allen also said absentee ballots have to be registered and once received must be signed by a recipient before they have been returned. Those ballot signatures are checked as well, she said. Importantly, she noted that no one can obtain an absentee ballot unless they have registered as a voter in the county. As to the idea of dead people can cast their votes in elections, Allen said she has not seen any nuances, and neither is the county's election board. She said voter rolls are regularly monitored and the election board purges deceased voters from the system once their deaths has been verified. Allen said modern election voting machines are also served as a check as they have 3 methods of monitoring votes. The machine have tapes used to count vote totals, compact flashcards to read the ballots entered into the machine, and finally, the paper ballots filled out by the voters visiting the polling sites. Voters do sign their names prior to filling out their ballots, and trained on-site inspectors are required to make sure their signatures match the registration records. Allen said all polling locations are required to have both Democrat and Republican inspectors on hand at all times while polls are open. You have equal representation at the polling sites, just like you do at the Board of Elections, she said. I think we have good people working the polls, Allen said. I think our system is rock solid. Sendenato said anyone who is suspect of a person of violating illegally should bring evidence to the election board, and it can be passed alongside the Niagara County District Attorney's Office for further review. Quote, we will be happy to look into it, Senato said. We certainly don't want something like this going on here in Niagara County. Our next headline, video shows refugee released by Border Patrol. Nearly blind man was dropped off at a closed coffee shop 5 days before his death, from the Associated Press. In the moments after Border Patrol agents dropped him off at the Buffalo Donut Shop, surveillance video shows Nurul Amin Sham Alam stepped gingerly through the emptied parking lots in the county-issued jail booties. He pulled up his hood against the cold as he walks through the drive-thru window, then paces away into the night. 5 nights later, the nearly blind refugee from Myanmar was found dead in the street, raising questions about whether the federal agents could have done more to ensure the safety when he was released from custody miles from his home without informing his family or lawyer. The video obtained by the investigative post shows that Shah Alam, age 56, after agents dropped him off at the Tim Hortons on the night of February 19th, the day he was released from the county jail, where he has been held for over a year. Buffalo Mayor Sean Ryan has said that the restaurant was closed at the time. The nonprofit news site says the footage it obtained shows that Shah Alam being left out in the Border Patrol van, which can be easily seen in the driving away, then walking by the restaurant's locked front door. U.S. Customs and Border Protection said that this week agents chose a warm, safe location for a drop-off. Shah Alam was found dead Tuesday outside the arena where NHL Buffalo Sabres play. A woman called 911 to report his body lying in the sidewalk. It was unclear how it got to downtown spot from the restaurant several miles away. Buffalo police were reviewing the footage through the city in the attempt to identify the movements. The county medical examiner's office was investigating the cause of death. Custom and Border Protection agents said they offered Shah Alam a courtesy ride to a location where his family had once lived, and that he had accepted the ride and showed no signs of distress or disability. The agency did not respond to an email seeking comment Friday. A legal aid bureau of Buffalo lawyer Benjamin Mascalero reported Shah Alam missing on Sunday. By then, Shah Alam's family knew he had been released from jail and had no idea of his whereabouts. Masalingo went to an area of immigration detention center where he assumed Shah Alam had been taken, and he had been told he wasn't there. He visited hospitals, homeless shelters, a searched neighborhood where his family lived previously, and distributed missing person posters around the area. It wasn't until Monday that he learned that the Legal Aid Bureau said that Shah Alam had been dropped off at the Tim Hortons. Buffalo police had no updates Friday, but on Thursday released the body cam footage of the 2025 incident that led to Shah Alam's being jailed for a year. At the time, Shah Alam was newly arrived in Buffalo. The Legal Aid Bureau said he hardly knew the neighborhood where the family lived, spoke practically no English, was blind in one eye, and had very limited vision in the other. In the videos, police approached Shah Alam in the snowy backyard as he holds what appears to be two curtain rods, and approaching officers shouting, "What are you doing?" and "Put that down," multiple times. Shah Alam, dressed in a hoodie, walked toward the officers, occasionally holding out his hand. Advocates for his family says Shah Alam wandered onto the wrong property when the police were called and did not understand the officers' commands because he did not speak English. In the body cam footage, one officer said, I'm going to shoot you, dude," before firing tasers and then taking him to the ground into a struggle, cuffing his hands behind his back, police says. Shah Alam bit two officers. In the body cam footage provided by the Buffalo Police Department shows Nurul Shah Alam, center led by Buffalo police officers, being arrested on charges of assault, burglary, and criminal mischief February 15, 2025. Our next headline, tribute to Highmark. Heartland meeting fix on growth. Town officers are looking into ideas, by Joyce Miles. From Gasport, Heartland town officers will host an informal meeting Monday to elect suggestions for, quote, smart growth that complements the town's aggregation center character. Agrarian character. Alongside town residents, that invitees include representatives from Niagara County Department of Economic Development, local service organizations, and neighborhood town governments. For many years now, the town's discouraged growth. Now that we want to encourage it. The question is, what do we do to encourage our town and our community? What type of growth will be a good fit? We're reaching out for ideas on how to grow within the town's existing comprehensive plan and laws. In light of solar energy companies' sustained efforts, line 3 up a 350 MW generation project Heartland in the town council updated the comprehensive plan in 2024 to effectively bar the sitting of any large-scale industrial projects while retaining Heartland's identity as a farm town. Nothing that the businesses district on Ridge Road is small. Councilmember Elizabeth Nito suggests homes and hobby farms are the places where new businesses show growth and could occur. Quote, people want heartlands to stay agricultural. Small farms, farm stands focused on local food, Nito said. Home-based businesses would not change the, quote, look of the town, she added. Ask to define growth and how to measure via increased population, expansion of tax bases, and or something else. Nito replied, growth to me says maybe a community gathering, maybe a community garden, access to social clubs. Maybe there's growth in the town park or different housing ideas. Growth can mean a million things to a million different people. We're looking for a place to start. The Smart Growth meeting, which will begin at 11 a.m. at the Town Hall, is an informative idea-gathering session to try to find out the needs of the community, Nito said. It's the beginning of the town's quest to stay viable. Findings of this meeting will be presented to the public on April 1st. You are listening to a reading of articles and features of the Lockport Union-Sun and Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. It is 15 minutes past the hour. Our next headline: The Effects of Dementia on Communication Ability, by Maureen Wendon, Senior Spotlight. Dementia affects persons' ability to communicate, making it hard to convey their wants and needs to the people around them. How and when language problems develop will depend on the person's personality and the ways they manage those language problems, the type of dementia they have, and the stage of dementia. Language problems can vary from day to day and differ from different times of the day. These problems can be made worse if a person is tired, in pain, or unwell. The surroundings can also help the communication and make it more difficult. Good communication is an important part of a person's well-being. It helps people with dementia to maintain relationships, keep a sense of identity, and stay involved. Even as communicating becomes more and more challenging, there are lots of ways to connect. Better communication can make a big difference when supporting someone with dementia. It can make things easier today and help you feel better connected and understood and feel more connected. If you're looking after a person with dementia, you may find that as their illness progresses, you and the person you care for may have to change how you communicate with each other. You may have to start discussions to get the person to make a conversation. This is common. Their ability to process information to get progressively weaker as their responses becomes more delayed. When encouraging someone with dementia to speak clearly, slowly, using short sentences, and make eye contact with the person when they are talking or asking questions, give them time to respond. Give them time to make simple choices. Acknowledge what they have said so they feel heard, and use other ways to communicate. When someone has difficulty speaking or understanding, some suggestions include: 1. Try to be patient, remain calm, which can help the person communicate more clearly. 2. Keep your tone and voice positive and friendly. 3. Talk to them for a respectable distance to avoid intimidating them, being at the same level or lower they are, or be lower than they are. Sitting, for example, can help. If a person is finding any kind of conversation too difficult, they may use nonverbal communication. As dementia progresses, they may find a main way to communicate. Dementia progressively impairs a individual's ability to communicate effective language, comprehension, expressive language, and use social interaction. Caregivers can learn how to use personal-centered approach to communicate more effectively at any age of the disease by attending the program Caregivers Social, Supporting Independence, which is being offered at 12:30 p.m. next Wednesday at the Dale Association at 33 Ontario Street, in part of the Alzheimer's Association. Topics include how dementia affects communication and how you use a person-centered approach and communication, tips for communicating with family members and friends, and healthcare professionals will be shared. This is a free workshop and can be open and is open to the public. Call 716-433-1886. That's 716-433-1886 to reserve your spot. Maureen Wendon is a president and CEO of the Dale Association, a nonprofit organization that provides senior mental health and in-home care and caregiver support services for enrichment of their activities as adults. For more information, call 716-433-1886, 716-433-1886, or visit them at www.daleassociation.com. Our next headline: Dave Kenyon is the next Lenten Lunch Speaker. The 2026 Lenten Lunch Speaker Series continues Wednesday with David Kenyon, a featured speaker. Kenyon is a chairman of the board of the Lockport Locks Heritage District. He served as the chief executive officer in the Town of Lockport Industrial Development Agency from 2009 to 2015. As a former president of the Eastern Niagara Chamber of Commerce, a position he held for over 23 years, Kenyon also served on the board of directors of the Canal New York, the Canal Society of New York State, and the Niagara County Historical Society, in the Niagara History Center. He is a member of the St. John Baptist Church Parish and a member of the past president of the Rotary Club in Lockport. He and his wife Anna Beth, and his two children and 6 grandchildren. The Lockport Lenten Luncheon Series is a community tradition established back in 1957. Lunch is catered by Molineros. The meal on Wednesday is baked chicken thighs, pasta with vegetable salad, rolls, and dessert. The cost is $12 per person at the door and parking lots on either side of the church. The north side is open from 11:30 a.m. and open seating begins at 11:50. On any given Wednesday, the luncheon is canceled if Lockport City School District announce a closing due to inclement weather. Remaining speakers in the series of 2026 are Reverend Tanya Spencer on March 11th, Leah Sobereski, March 18th, Karen Shannon, March 25th, and the Reverend Raquel Alliston on April 11th. For more information of this year's series, call the Emmanuel Church office at 716-433-2838. That's the Emmanuel Church office at 716-433-2838. Our next headline, Women of the Blues piano program slated. Krista Seddon Blues Note series is back on Emmanuel Church. Professional pianist Krista Seddon's Blue Note performance series will return to the Emmanuel United Methodist Church, 75 East Avenue at 2 p.m. Sunday. She'll explore women of the blues, Bessie Smith, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, and Aretha Franklin. The monthly series explores and explains the development of jazz music and blues. Alongside playing their music, Seddon shares the stories about the musicians. The Emmanuel Narthex lobby, which has a fireplace, is where Sheldon will be performing. The program lasts about 1 hour. Tickets are $30, and they're available at the door as well as online at lockportemmanuelic.com. Student ID will be admitted for $10 at the door. Seddon, a Lockport native, has been featured soloist with several orchestras, including Buffalo Philharmonic, and orchestral pianist with Broadway musicals and regional orchestras, including the Chautauqua Symphony. She has performed in a classic of jazz venues in Europe, Asia, as well as the United States. The Steinway artist is also presenting a Blue Note Trinity Chapel in Buffalo. Her spring 2026 schedule can be found at www.chrisaseddon.com. That's www.chrisaseddon.com. Our next headline, Spring is in the Air for Local Wildlife, by Douglas Demenden of the Great Outdoors. Spring doesn't arrive officially until March 20th, but really, Mother Nature controls the timing. Much local wildlife preparing for spring now, as mating season is underway or starting soon. Some wildlife, such as foxes, coyotes, start pairing up in January ahead of the mating season, which usually occurs in February or early March. These animals typically keep the same mates their whole lives and now very active looking for den sites. The young of the both species generally starts giving birth around April. Raccoons and minks are actively looking for mates during the same period, but generally a little more than into March. Skunks' breeding season usually starts breeding around late February to March and births around May. Squirrels have 2 mating seasons, late winter, December through February, and midsummer, May through August. During these mating season periods, you'll often see acrobatics as males chase females around the trees. I've noticed that the squirrels around my house are very busy and very active this time of year. Opossums are a bit different. Their mating season begins between January and February and lasts throughout the summer. They often produce 2 litters per year. Their first litter is as early as February-March. Their gestation period is very short, lasting only 12 to 13 days. Only after the young are born, they are called joeys, and they are the size of honeybees. They remain in their mother's pouch for 50 to 70 days, after which they travel on their mother's backs. No wonder there's so many of them are hit on the roads. Weasels are a bit different. They typically mate during mid to late summer, specifically in July to August, and the females experience delayed implantations, meaning their embryos do not develop immediately and are and the young are not born until the following April or May. Muskrats are often as big as well, mating from March through August and having 2 to 3 litters per year. The primary mating and nesting of season for songbirds starts in May and runs through June, and actually raising their young taking place between July into August. Canadian geese start pairing up in late February and March, with eggs laid through mid May. After the eggs have hatched, their parents become aggressive towards any threat to their young, goslings and including humans. Ducks are started their nesting territories in April, and most of the nesting occurs through May and into summer. Hawks mating season and nesting season usually runs through late January through August, with peaks occurring between March and May. Most local owls start mating between February and March, with nesting between March and June. Their expectation is great horned owl that this large owl, it's courting between November and December, and its nesting season is between January and February. These owls don't build their homes or nest. They use their old hawk or crow's nests and sometimes live in tree captivity. Throughout the state, Department of Environmental Conservation, Tonawana's Oak Orchard Wildlife Management areas, there are horizontal tube-type nesting structures put up in the shallow swallow water areas for mallard ducks to nest in, and one year a great horned owl used one. Many years ago, when the first video camera was placed on a local eagle's nest, the eagle found a great horned owl and owl incubating eggs in their nest, and they were unable to evict the squatters. Bald eagles use the same nesting patterns every year, unless the nest or tree comes down or they have a previous nesting season failure. They start repairing their nest during the winter months, and by this time of the year, they are very active rebuilding and adding on to it. A few pairs already laid eggs, but March is the real egg laying time. Things have been slowed down and inactive in the great outdoors, with the winter still locked on us, but wildlife carries on as usual. If you venture out for a hike or just watch what's going on, remember to keep your distance from nesting areas for bald eagles, owls, as a disturbance could also cause nest failure. Spring is coming, even though it doesn't look like it for now. Our next headline: North Tonawanda priest ordered to seek counseling in harassment case. Reverend Michael Lamarca has been charged with second-degree harassment following December's incident by Robert Creenan. A North Tonawanda priest charged with physically harassing a parishioner has been ordered to undertake 6 months of counseling with a protective order issued on behalf of the victim. The Reverend Michael Lamarca was sentenced Friday morning in a North Tonawanda City Court in regards to a second-degree harassment charge. He was given until August 26 to complete his counseling. A no offensive contact order was issued on Friday. It's a protective order that allows the parties to be near each other but requires the restrained person to stop all threatening, harassing, and violent behavior. The charge stems from a December 23rd incident of which North Tonawanda police were dispatched to Our Lady of Kazachowa Church on Center Avenue and then the complainant's home. The victim told officers that day that she has been with Lamarca at the church earlier to help with the flower arrangements, and an argument ensued, and Lamarca told her to leave and get back her keys to the church. While returning the keys in another room, she said Lamarca was walked in and been arguing again, and he grabbed both her upper arms and pushed her against the counter. She told Lamarca to let her go, and that she was able to wrestle herself away from him to leave the church. The woman declined to pursue charges that day, police said. That day, the North Tonawanda police were again dispatched talking to the woman, who told them that she had visited a doctor for contusions on the upper left arm. She told officers she wanted to pursue charges. LaMarca turned himself in to North Tonawanda Police Department on January 9th and was arraigned on second-degree harassment charges. The Diocese of Buffalo did not respond to the request and comment. It has been released a statement last week noting that it was gathering and examining all available information that would allow it to be handled in the court and would fully cooperate with law enforcement. LaMarca has been served at the Buffalo Bills Catholic chaplain since 2023. You're listening to a reading of articles and features on the Lockport Union-Sun and Journal on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. It has been 30 minutes past the hour. Our next headline: Case hosting Niagara County Resource Day in North Tonawanda. Event taking place Wednesday at the Garwetwick House and Fire Hall. Case Niagara, or Coalition of Agencies in Service of the Elderly, will host a Niagara County Resource Day event starting 12:30 at Garwick House Company, 110 Ward, North Tonawanda. The event will highlight services of older adults in Niagara County. Will attend the opportunity to connect with more than 30 local organizations, informing them on senior living, healthcare, financial planning, memory care, home support, and more. There will be a basket raffle and mingling with guest speaker Mary Brennan Taylor, Vice President of the YWCA of the Niagara Frontier, will presenting a Saving Alice, a premiere of geriatric patient care at 2 p.m. Winners of the basket auction will be drawn at 2:50 p.m. We're excited to bring these organizations together to highlight the Niagara County and offer what it has to offer to our seniors. Courtney Spies, a director in community engagement of the Western New York chapter of Alzheimer's Association and co-chair of the event. Attendees will have an opportunity to meet one-on-one with organizations to learn many of their resources available to them. Case Niagara provides community resources and education networking opportunities to enhance service of aging Niagara County. For more information, go www.caseniagara.com, C-A-S-E, Niagara.com. CASE has over 50 member organizations, and 2/3 of them will represent at the Resource Day, noted Christine S. O'Hare, MS, Executive Director of HEART, a chairperson of Case Niagara. So many of us do not know the abundance of resources that are available to seniors, or where to find them, or when they need them. So this is a great way to do this. Wednesday is a free event and open to the public. Contact Courtney Spires at clspies@alz.org or 716-271-9255. That's 716-271-9255. Our next headline from the opinion section: A major victory for journalistic freedom, by Stephen V. Roberts, for commentary. Donald Trump has waged war on news media his entire career, frequently derailing journalists as, quote, enemies of the people and real scum. In the second term, he has gone far as name-calling, suing the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and exerting regulation pressure from the parent companies of CBS, ABC, and defunding NPR and PBS, and arresting journalists like Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. One of the most serious threats to press freedom has been playing out in a low-level federal court in Virginia, and it has already weakened the ability of journalists to hold their power-hungry president accountable for his actions. But a brave federal judge has now threatened the administration to strike and struck as a strong blow for press freedom. On January 14th, federal agents raided the home of Washington reporter Hannah Natson, seizing 2 phones, 2 laptops, and other devices. The ostensible reason is that the Natson had received published information from Aurelio Luis Perez Lugones, a federal contractor who was later indicted for mishandling government secrets. Under the First Amendment, it is not a crime for journalists to disclose classified documents, but legal punishment was not the purpose of the raid. It was to deter and demoralize both reporters and sources who might document a president's many mistakes and misdeeds. Quote, this is the first time in U.S. history that the government has searched a reporter's home in national security media leaked investigation, seizing potentially a vast amount of confidential data and information, said Bruce Brown, president of the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press. He continues, the move imperils public interest reporting and will have ramifications far beyond this specific case. Quote, this outrageous seizure of our reporters' confidential news gathering materials chills speech, cripples reporting, and inflicts irreparable harm in every day. The government keeps its hands on their materials. Warned that the Post, in a statement, that this is the only latest example of the deliberate and destructive strategy has longed for. Defy and distort the reality. Fright and fire people who contradicted you. Alternative facts. Perspectives of the press and institutions that provide the primary protection against your fantasies and falsehoods. In a rare moment of candor in 2017, Trump told journalist Leslie Stahl, while he relentlessly assails the media, quote, I do it to discredit you and demean you all. So when you write negative stories about me, no one will believe you. The Nathan raid was already having negative impact. Her lawyer Simon Lakovich told Magistrate Judge William Porter, who is handling the case, that she has been receiving dozens, even hundreds of tips every day from disgruntled federal workers documenting the impact of Trump's unbridled budget cuts. Since the seizure, those sources have been dried up. Those sources are critical to Nathanson's and any investigative reporter. And as First Amendment lawyer David Schultz reported in the New York Times, history is full of examples of whistleblowers who were able to inform the public of misconduct and abuse only through the reporters who could guarantee them confidentiality and could publish free of government interference. The Trump administration acts in the case have inflicted serious damage to journalists and could have chilling effects on the free press. Added that media critic Tom Jones in the Portner report, while Nathanson might not have a target or investigation, sources might be hesitant to deal with her or any reporter covering political issues out of fear of being outed. This chilling effect is particularly insidious because its impact is most viable. What stories are never written, questions never asked, sources never interviewed, and what plans is Trump pursuing that we'll never know about? His political and potential whistleblower is now being scared to come forward. Judge Porter clearly saw the danger. He ruled this week that the administration could not go fishing for leads and leakers in the Nathanson devices. Instead, he would personally identify any evidence directly relevant to the Perez-Lugones case and hand them over to the government, allowing the government to filter them and search for the reporter's works product is equivalent of leaving the government box in charge of the Washington Post henhouse. This is a major victory for journalist freedom and integrity. But as the former Post editor Marty Baron warns, this administration will set no limits on its acts of aggression against the independent press. Journalists and judges have to counter that aggression with courage, conviction, and instead of looking over their shoulder, they have to look straight ahead and tell Trump and the public the truth. Our next headline: March is National Agricultural Month, and Seasons on the Farm is a Farm Bureau 2026 book selection. Niagara County Farm Bureau has selected Seasons on the Farm by Chelsea Torrenta as a 2026 book to celebrate National Agricultural Month. Throughout the month of March, members of the organizations will volunteer their time to visit with children, read the book, and share an activity. Seasons of the Farm gives a realistic view of the different tasks to be done on the farm throughout the year. Quote, we want everyone from children and adults to understand where their food comes from and how it's grown locally and who the local farmers are. The NCFB President Mark Russell said, today farmers are less than 2% of the population. However, we enjoy sharing what we grow, how we grow, and what we do to protect the environment. Every March for the past 18 years, the New York Farm Bureau Promotion Educational Committee has selected a different book to explain a facet of New York agriculture to elementary school students with diversity agriculture in New York State. These books have focused on different crops, styles of farming, from different crops and styles of farming. From urban agricultural to tomatoes to dairy products, students have been exposed to different aspects of this vital industry. In the past, for the program, farmers have visited elementary classrooms, Boy Scout, Girl Scout troops, homeschool organizations, and other youth groups. To schedule your class or group presentation, contact Elaine Barrett at 716-735-7791. That's Elaine Barrett at 716-735-7791. Or email at info@NiagaraCountyFarmBureau.com. That's info@NiagaraCountyFarmBureau.com. You can also contact me, and I'll get the ball rolling for you as well. Farm Bureau is known for its advocacy in farm issues at the political arena. Another vital part of the mission is promotion and education. The local committee, chaired by Kelly Rabby, throughout the state, these committees organize various educational events, including tours, farm to table dinners, and speakers. If learning more about this food grown is the goal, there is a farmer willing to speak to your group. Margot Sue Bittner has been involved in Niagara County Agricultural Society, dairy farming, fruit production, and wine agritourism for more than 40 years. If you wish to contact her, give her a shout at 716-778-7001. That's 716-778-7001. Our next headline, Unusual Places, named in Wheatfield and Wilson. Niagara Discoveries by Anne Murray, a look back on the old days of Niagara County and Lockport, New York. Today's installment of Niagara Discoveries concludes the series about the unusual place names or locales in the county that may be a bit more explanation as why they are called what they are. In the town of Wheatfield, there are 3 places that are familiar to many people, but they may not know how they got their names. There are some who think Shawnee Road and the hamlet that development around it at Lockport Road was named after the Native American Shawnee of the Shawnee Nation, Native American Shawnee Nation, but was actually named after an early pioneer named Timothy Shaw, who came here in 1824. He first lived in Niagara Falls, and then in 1828, he settled in Lockport Road, just east where it splits off to Mapleton Road. He opened a store and ashery there. In those days, ashes could be sold and used in the making of soap. Most accountants state that Shaw gave the name Shawnee to the community that grew up around the store. Whether he had the Indian Nation in mind cannot be known. Shawnee Road was cut through the settlements from Sawyer Creek Road, now Niagara Falls Boulevard, to Sauter's Settlements, also known as Route 31. The section of Route 31 called Silver Nail Road, or the Cambria Swamp Road, it did not become existence till Shawnee Road until the early 20th century. In the early 1840s, many traditional Lutherans left Persia, now Germany, due to religious persecution. In 1842, several men from Persia came looking at the land and recently formed the town of Wheatfield. They purchased 500 acres along Tonawanda Creek near Sawyer's Creek, where Sawyer's Creek now joins it. Sawyer's Creek is named for the occupation of sawing and milling lumber. The first of the non-residential structures built was a church dedicated to St. Martin. The new community chose the name Martinsville to honor Martin Luther, founder of the Lutheran Church. Within a few years, new homes and schools, stores, and other businesses were built in the William Street school area, now Old Falls Street, the main road through the hamlet, creating a small community there. The hamlet of Walmore at Lockport and Walmart roads were originally called Walmow, Walmow, the name of the town in Persia where their new settlers came from. A different group in that Martinsville although some of the 19th century and 20th century maps identify as Walmore, a few did not. On 1852 Niagara County map, that intersection labeled Walene, Walne, where that name came from was unknown. The 1860 Niagara and Orleans County map, as well as the 1938 map, gave no designation at all. In 1875 and 1908, Niagara County Alas maps called Walmore, Walmor. It is interesting to note that although the two-letter maps call it Walmore, newspapers as the late 1890s identify people in marriage announcements and obituaries as being from Walmow, Walmow. In a 1963 article in the Niagara Falls Gazette, Dick Klung wrote Walmore was Americanized to Walmores, but did not say when and why this happened. You're listening to a reading of articles and features of the Niagara Union-Sun and Lockport Journal, a Niagara Frontier radio reading service. Our next headline, Yarn Octopus, a creature of comfort for a preemie. Corey Williams, Associated Press. Joelle Haley went into labor on Christmas Day, giving birth to a son 2 days later, premature at 24 weeks. In a soothing darkness of a Detroit hospital room, a little something was missing from the newborns, Kieran's and his mom. Turns out that something was a colorful batch of soft yarn. Haley would crochet it into a small tentacled octopus. For preemies, the Children's Hospital of Michigan Neurological Intensive Care Unit at DMU, Huntsville Women's Hospital, dozens of cuddly donated octopi get their attention to help small hands grabbing and tugging on the tubes and wires that help to keep them alive. Quote, it was very hard to leave my son there, knowing he was in good hands even, because I was afraid, well, what if he's upset and he has nothing or no one to comfort them at the moment, Haley said. Just knowing he has something near him that brings him comfort helps him feel better, so that I can take care of him, so I can also take care of me. Called amigurumi, from Japanese art crafting small plush animals from yarn, the octopi mostly crocheted in a blaze of colors. Haley began making octopi after overhearing a nurse saying some would be more helpful in the NICU. Having crocheted since second grade, the 30-year-old began fulfilling the need, so far making about 20. She also reached out to social media for help. The last time I counted, there was 175 had been donated, and there are more on the way. They came from all over Michigan. Joelle holds an octopi that she crocheted for preemies in the Children's Hospital of Michigan's Neonatal Intensive Care Unit at the DMC Women's Hospital. She said, while delivering some of the hospitals where they were placed in bassinets were for newborns. Some babies receive care requiring breathing support, said Dr. Yura Lua, medical director at the Children's Hospital. It is important that we keep the tube in. Some babies will grab onto them and accidentally pull them out, Lua said. Let's say their breathing tube comes out. Then the babies will have breathing issues. They're not able to breathe. Their oxygenation goes down. It may make the time longer to stabilize them, Haley said. She often saw her infant tug on the tubes connecting them to the NICU equipment. Quote, it helps me feel more comforted that I was able to help the children, Haley said. Seeing my son with his helps me know that he'll be safe and comforted while I'm not here. So I hope it brings him the same feeling to help other families. Haley said it takes her about 30 minutes to make one of those octopi. Our next headline, dating and breaking old patterns. from the comics and puzzle section of Dear Annie. Dear Annie, for most of my life, I picked the wrong partners. Over time, I realized it wasn't bad luck. I was choosing what I had seen, not what I actually done the work to earn. Those patterns came from my family and the system I grew up in, and I keep recreating them. A few years ago, I left behind and made a full 180. I simplified my life, built routines, and took responsibility for my choices instead of repeating the familiar dynamics. The calmer and more grounded my life became, the clearer it was my old ways of dating no longer match who I am now. To avoid repeating those mistakes, I changed the structure completely. I don't ask women out anymore, not out of fear or passivity, but because I don't want to project or to pull someone into my life based on impulse. I will always say yes if a woman asks me out and shows me what she enjoys. I'm upfront about this. I'm not waiting to be chosen. I'm choosing a structure that requires mutual initiative from the start. Here are my questions. We live in a world where women were often expected to wait for men to initiate. If that's the case, how is that an equal system? How do two people build a balanced relationship when one side is expected to lead and others to wait? Is choosing not innately a healthy way to break old patterns? Or am I just misunderstanding how equality in dating actually works? Signed, Dating with Intention. Dear Dating with Intention, first, kudos for your work you've done. You've recognized unhealthy patterns, clarified what was instead take what you wanted instead of what was taking real steps to build a steadier life. Wanting a relationship based on mutual effort is healthy, and those are the bonds that tend to last. That said, equality is dating doesn't necessarily mean identical roles. Refusing to make the first move may protect you from old patterns, but it can also stop a connection before it has a chance to form. For many women, initiative isn't about dominance. It's simply a sign that you're interested. You can ask someone out thoughtfully, without impulse or projection, and still stay true to the balance you've worked so hard to build. The mutual effort you're looking for has to include you from the jump if there's any hope for something meaningful to take hold. Send in questions to Annie Lane at dearannielane@creators.com. To find out more about Annie Lane and read features of other Creator Syndicate columnists and cartoonists, visit the Creator Syndicate website at www.creators.com. And for fun days to look forward to, what day is today for March 26, 2026? On Saturday, March 7th, it's National Cereal Day and National Sock Monkey Day. On March 8th, we're looking at National Retro Video Game Day, National Peanut Cluster Day, Daylight Savings Time. On the 9th, we're looking at National Barbie Day, National Napping Day, National Meatball Day. On March 10th, we're looking at National Mario Day, Harriet Tubman Day, and International Day of Awesomeness. On March 11th, we're looking at National Dream Day, National No Smoking Day in the UK, World Plumbing Day, Key Deer Awareness Day. On the 12th, we're looking at National Plant a Flower Day, National Kidney Day, International Awareness Day of Avoidable Deaths, or IAD for AD. World Glaucoma Day rounds out March 12th. Coming on to March 13th, National Good Samaritan Day, Solar Appreciation Day, National Freelancers Day, and World Sleep Day, which we could all use from time to time. March 14th is National Write Your Own Story Day, National Pi Day, 3.14, of course, International Day of Mathematics, International Day of Action for Rivers, Dog Theft Awareness Day on the 14th. On the 15th of March, we're looking at World Speech Day, Mothering Sunday in the UK, Buzzards Day, Pears Helene Day, National Shoe the World Day on the 15th. March 16th, we're looking at Robert Goudard Day, National Panda Day, and Black Press Day. On March 17th, we're looking at National Corned Beef and Cabbage Day, Campfire Girls Day, St. Patrick's Day, of course, and Doctor Patient Trust Day on March 17th. On March 18th, we're looking at National Sloppy Joe Day, Small Business Development Centers Day, National Awkward Moments Day, Transit Driver Appreciation Day, Goodness of Fertility Day. March 19th, we're looking at National Let's Laugh Day, Absolutely Incredible Kid Day, Oranges and Lemons Day, National Close the Gap Day, and Operational Iraqi Freedom Day. March 20th is Won't You Be My Neighbor Day, Red Nose Day, World Oral Health Day, and French Language Day. And March 21st, National Single Parent Day, World Down Syndrome Day, World Poetry Day, National Quilting Day, and World Puppetry Day. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the current issues of the Lockport Union-Sun and Journal. We read the Lockport Union-Sun and Journal every Saturday at 5 p.m. Your reader today has been me, Brian Mendola. Thank you for listening. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have a reading of the Wall Street Journal Off-Duty section. At 7 o'clock, we got Harper's Magazine, and at 8 o'clock, we have Sports Illustrated. Stay tuned for these readings and more throughout the day. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Radio readers broadcast daily readings 24 hours a day of newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability who are provided reading radios. Our broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio reading broadcasts throughout the city of Buffalo, Western New York, and Southern Ontario's Niagara Peninsula. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call us at 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability.